friends, and welcome to another episode of the Oatley Academy ArtCast. I'm Chris Oatley, director of the Oatley Academy of Visual Storytelling, and today I have part 2 of my interview with Disney toy designer Zach Gracia. In part 1 of this series, Zach told the story of how he challenged his family's expectations to pursue an artistic career, struggled through art school, and avoided debt by working multiple jobs, including some uncomfortable internships. And when he finally got a chance at an interview with Disney Animation, he completely blew it. But as you can tell from his job title, the story does not end there. So now, in part 2, Zach tells the story of how he finally broke in at Disney, why all the struggle was worth it, and why mentorship is so crucial for success in the entertainment industry. Before we move on, can we talk about Sarah Marino?
She's amazing. She was awesome. I mean, I never became hostile. It never felt like anything but a bunch of friends helping each other with their art. And I still feel that way. Sarah really had a great way of giving you feedback and making you still feel like you didn't want to go cry in the corner.
Yeah.
She had a great way of kind of taking you through the process and her mindset and what she was thinking. And again, elevating your story.
Yeah.
She's not imposing her own story into what she's, critiquing or whatever. She's helping you elevate your story to a better point. And that is, especially now when, I'm in school and seeing that, it's invaluable. I mean, that's awesome. It's awesome to be a student on the other side of that and hearing her, take you through your work and you see it in a different way.
Yeah.
All of the feedback that I got from both of you, it was so directed and it was so tailored to what I was looking for.
There is a common thing in art schools in general where there's this cookie cutter approach, and it makes us crazy because no two humans are exactly alike, let alone artists. We all process differently, we all think differently, and we all have very specific individual goals, and some of us have very specific individual goals that we haven't even discovered yet. If you try to squeeze us into this one-size-fits-all education, we might never find, the right thing for us. You have some very specific, innate hopes and dreams and talents and potential. An education should help you see that more clearly and help you apply that to your goal, as opposed to just throwing you into the conveyor belt of the degree factory. Take us to your Disney rebirth, your second try there.
While I was doing the mentorship with Sarah, I was at Best Buy. I had somebody come in and she was looking for iPads. I eventually asked the question of, what's the purpose? Like, what do you need these iPads for? But she says, we are opening up an art education series of classes through our company, YOLO Arts. So again, I'm taking you through everything. And we were, talking to each other for a good hour. And I was at that point when I heard that she's, hiring artists to educate, the community, it was, how do I phrase this? How do I approach her? And is this even the right place to approach her? Is this, it's all this second guessing. It was all going through my head. And so we're getting ready to finish and she's checking out. And I'm like, hey, I'm an artist. I do this and that. And I'd love to give you a business card. If you're looking for artists, to help out or whatever, just drop me a line. And so she's like, yeah, absolutely. And took my card. And I got off work and I had an email waiting for me. And she said that she loved my portfolio. She'd love to bring me on as a teaching artist. And when can I start? That was really the first art job that I had. I couldn't leave Best Buy yet because the teaching artist position was part-time. But this felt like the beginning of my journey, or at least the start of my career, really. And so I taught in elementary schools. I taught in middle schools, mostly in high schools. I taught at juvenile detention centers.
Awesome.
But you know what? They offered great money. They offered great opportunities. And at that time, that's what I needed. I needed that credibility to add to my resume to give somebody like Disney a better idea of who I was. That was an awesome experience just because I had to present in front of sometimes 45 kids, and I had to be able to articulate what I was saying. I was teaching, I was making pretty good money for the time. And meanwhile, I'm still going to school. And so I'm coming home at night and drawing up until, whatever hour, and just trying to continue honing my craft and building my skills up and, never leaving my sketchbook alone for too long.
Yeah.
After that, I did another college program, but instead it was down here in Disneyland. And I went to the internship and was a store clerk. And I was, responsible for inventory. And I was,
Wow.
A cashier.
How long were you at the college program?
So I showed up in January of 2015 and went through the college program, did my networking, reached out to a lot of different people. And by somewhere around April or May, I had an offer to join the consumer products team.
Wow. And what kind of specifics are you at liberty to share about that process?
I can talk about most of it. I would credit most of my ability to network and find the people that put me in the position to get hired. Most of that credit is due to one of my mentors and a close friend, Claudia, who worked at Disneyland as an instructor. And
Cool.
She really worked hard to open up her kind of contact list and say, this person is in this position, this person is in this position. Who do you want to reach out to?
Wow.
So it was awesome. I had multiple different meetings with, people from animation backgrounds and products and Imagineering. And specifically, it came down to 1 week where through all this networking, through all this kind of meet and greet, settings, I had a meeting set up with Imagineering on a Wednesday and then consumer products on a Friday.
Jeez.
And so it was, Imagineering said, we'd like to meet. I have this friend who would work in a department that could hire somebody like you. You should meet this person and that'd be great. And then consumer products says, I'd like to take you around a tour. And this is actually my boss now. Spoiler alert. But my boss now, I met with him, and he was the one that took me around campus and showed me what they do and how they develop these toys and collectibles and different products. We were supposed to have a half-hour meeting, and we sat there and talked for about 4 hours.
Wow.
He just really downloaded his story and told me about, the different experiences that he had. And he looked at my portfolio. And I mean, at that point, I'm a clerk at a Main Street store. I'm working at the Main Street Emporium.
Uh-huh.
I'm setting up shirts. I'm ringing up people. And I get off an early shift there. I drive up and I'm at the campus for Imagineering. I read these books and lived in the Disneyland theme park when we had lived down here. I loved Disneyland. And in my early, college career, I did a lot of exploration of Imagineering. So here I am, and this is like a very intense moment for me to see everything around me and see legends walking by. I'm seeing, executives walk by. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's, whoever the name is, and they're very big in the industry. And so at the end of it, he says, I really love your stuff and I would love to offer you a job. However, we have the Shanghai portfolio closing soon.
Right.
And the Shanghai portfolio is the Shanghai Disney, and Imagineers group their projects into portfolios. So they hired a lot of artists for this project in particular with like kind of a contract end date. So if they were to bring me on as a concept artist or any kind of, character artist, whatever it would be in whatever capacity, it would be for a finite amount of time.
Yeah.
There was certainly an end to when I'd be working, and the end would be coming up pretty close. So I said, well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate, hearing about all this stuff. And, it was kind of left up to me to decide on whether or not I wanted that. But in the back of my mind, I had consumer products coming up, which I had no idea about. I didn't read any Art of Pixar Toys book.
Yeah.
There's nothing exists like that. So I met with Brian on Friday, my boss, and he was very positive about everything, very welcoming about everything, and just kind of opened up like, this is what we do. This is who we work with. We work closely with the filmmakers to make sure that whatever they want in a product line is carried out. And then we have to work with, different buyers and stuff like that to make sure our product line is tuned to what they would like to see. And so this is all news to me. This is all I'm learning as, I'm listening. And there was one moment where I remember he points to a cube and he says, let's go in here. And he says, this is where you'd sit. And that resonated with me. There was something there that stuck with me. He said, this is where you'd sit. This would be your Cintiq. And I hadn't had a Cintiq up to that point. He was placing me in these positions. He wasn't saying, if this does happen. He was saying, when it does happen, when we make you an offer, stuff like that. And at that point, I started kind of becoming a little giddy. I was like, oh my God, what's that? So, yeah, at the end of it, he said, what's on your list right now? I know you're an intern with the company and that kind of stuff. Do you have any projects that you're working on? Are you with Warner Brothers? Are you with anybody else, essentially? And I said, no. I said, I'm here. I'm interested in the position. And he said, okay, well, we have to work out some details. And he had to talk to HR and then their bosses. And it was a long, drawn out process. And then about a month and a half later, 2 months later, he says, congratulations, you're now a Disney artist, which I should frame and put somewhere. But that was just an amazing feeling. That was, at that point, everything that ran through my head was everything, we just talked about going through. I wasn't good enough at feature animation. I should have just been a teacher. I should have just done something that wasn't as risky, and I didn't. It was all worth it. At that point, it was all worth it. This was a dream. This is what I accomplished, and I'm here, and I made it. It was an amazing moment for me to be there. It was funny because I got the email as I'm getting ready for work, and I don't even remember that night that I worked. I was in my head just thinking about all the different things. I wasn't even at work. I remember, in fact, that night I told one of my bosses, and he was like a lead at the time. And one of our responsibilities was to kind of stand outside the door and kind of greet guests and let them know not to stand in the doorway, that this is, a fire exit and all that stuff. Not very exciting stuff, but I had my boss come up to me and say, hey, I just heard the news, congratulations. And the fireworks start going off.
Wow.
And as the fireworks going off, he's talking to me and he's like, you're really going to do great things. We've seen, the way that you work around here, and we know the kind of potential that you have and all this different stuff. And he's saying this as the fireworks are going off, and I'm seeing this dream, this thing kind of come to fruition, this thing that I've been working so hard. And what a poetic ending to my journey at this point. And it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling, and just like feeling like I was flying back to my car to drive back home. And I think I got off at like midnight that night or 1 a.m., but I couldn't even sleep. It was the best feeling I'd had to that point. It was awesome.
Zach, looking back on the last few years, there have been several points where people identified in you potential and even called it out. What do you think it was that they were responding to? What do you think it is that people see in you that makes these doors open?
That is a tough question. I think I have a genuine passion for the things that I work on. I think that I'm willing to do what it takes to get the job done, and being willing to adapt in the certain ways that I've needed to over the course of my life and the course of my career. I think that that's evident, but I hope that the perception is that in regards to the product that I work on now, in regards to the Disney product that I work on now, I'm so passionate about making this the best it can be, and trying to, if we need to break down walls, if we need to communicate differently, I'm so interested in being that person to kind of spearhead that movement because I remember being that kid walking out of Disneyland, with my Mickey doll. It is a continuation of that storytelling. For the stuff that I do now, I'd like to think about it as we sell time machines.
Yeah.
The products that we make, when they buy our products, people remember in that Buzz Lightyear. Wow, I remember that time that we saw Toy Story and we were all together. It takes you to a different place. And that's powerful to me. So I have this relentless passion that I've had to kind of throttle in a sense at times and make sure that, I'm not offending anybody or I'm not being hypercritical of anybody. I've had to bring it to a point where I feel like people will understand that my passion is based on my love for storytelling and for impacting lives in the most positive ways. I hope that's what comes across. I can't tell you what people see in me, but I hope that that's what comes across to other people, because I'm willing to work for it, to change the way that I look at things for it. Ultimately, I love the work as much as I do the reward at this point in my life. I think throughout my life and everything that we've been talking about, it's not the success that has made me the person that I am now. It's all of the constant failure that's made me the person I am today. It's not because, I was so great at these things that I just became this artist. It's because I was so bad for so long. I think that made me an artist that wanted to work harder than the next person. And it drove me to keep moving forward and to keep doing what I love so that I could get to that point.
What can you tell us about the way your art department at Disney Consumer Products works, and what can you tell us about the nature of the art that you do there? I know there's a lot of stuff that's going to be super cagey, so I just tell us what you're comfortable telling us.
Yeah, I think, if I was listening to this podcast 5 years ago, I'd want to know that I utilize a lot of the same fundamentals that I would for animation.
Right.
I do a lot of 3D turnarounds, a lot of model sheets. I utilize so much character design, fundamentals that I've used over the years. When I was first brought on, it was in a temporary setting. So I didn't have a Disney ID. I was a non-Disney employee. It was kind of their audition / probationary period. And the first project that they handed over to me was we needed to create a line of figures for Toy Story that was a miniature. They were going to be miniature blind bags.
What's a blind bag?
A blind bag is essentially a small figure. So these figures are about 2 inches in height, and you can't see what's inside.
Oh, cool.
You can't see the character.
Yeah.
It's mystery, right? So my boss at the time, he said, I'd like to see what you can come up with this. We're having a bit of a tough time right now. We have a crazy workload, and we need somebody to really go about stylizing these things and presenting them. Our workflow is we come up with these concepts and ideas. We present it to Pixar. They're the creative directors, they're the art directors. So they have their own consumer products team up there that will review the stuff that we've worked on. They'll give their notes and then send back to us. It's a lot. It's very close to the animation world. It's a lot of the same way.
Oh yeah.
An art director would, give notes to a designer, a character designer, or biz dev artist, whatever it is. So I created these concepts for Toy Story minis. I, did Buzz and Woody and, all these different characters in Toy Story.
Were you changing the style at all? I mean, were you?
Yeah, it was coming up with something that felt not baby, but still cute.
Yeah.
At that point in time, we're going up against, Funko and their kinds of stylizations of the characters. And so how do we differentiate ourselves and create some newness and create something that's very appealing?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so these are the prompts that I'm given by my boss, by my, manager and director. And then they say, okay, go at it. So for a good solid 2-3 weeks there in the beginning of my assignment, I'm sitting all day, drawing on my Cintiq, my brand new, beautiful Cintiq. I'm coming up with new stylizations of classic Pixar characters. It was a dream. I mean, and it still is a dream, but it was so fulfilling. This is what I wanted to do. So yeah, they liked, all of the designs. We had some notes come back from Pixar, and then we got those back, and they'll do like a 3D print of your drawing.
Wow.
Which is so amazing to see that, those orthographic, turns, and see that printed out. There's something that's hard to capture there, that it's just incredible. But that was my first project. And so everything we work on is in year to year and a half, increments. So the minis that I worked on came out last fall.
Oh, they made it all the way.
They made it all the way.
Wow.
They were produced. Again, it's one of those surreal feelings, but that's typically our workflow is we'll get a prompt from either somebody that's producing the goods like Mattel or Hasbro or whatever.
Right.
And they'll say, we need, this certain minifigure or a basic figure or an exclusive collectible or whatever it is. And then you design around those prompts, and then you review with your art directors up at Pixar, and you take those notes, you go back to the drawing board, you finish it out, and you'll review in a couple different stages. You'll review in the concept stage, in the sculpt stage, and then we call it a deco stage.
That's like the texture, right? The color and texture.
Yeah, the concept will be, your basic drawings and stuff like that. The sculpt is a 3D digital sculpted in Maya or ZBrush or whatever. And then the deco is when they paint it all, and are we getting colors correct? And sometimes it's even like eye placements, where's the pupil in relation to, stuff like that. So, and now we're in wave 3 of the Toy Story minis.
Wow.
And we just released the vehicles, play sets.
Wow.
3-packs. I mean, it's all come full circle, and it's really pretty awesome to see this thing. It's like this baby, that I had, and sharing it with the world now. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's one of those things that I never saw coming and was the perfect thing for me.
Well, Zach, any parting words for the ArtCast audience?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate the idea of building a strong community around you. I think it's easy to get distracted by people that question, the decisions that you make, criticize you along the way. But there are people out there that are willing to support you. I don't feel like any of my success, anything that I've ever accomplished, is solely due to my hard work or efforts or anything like that. It's largely due in part to the mentorships that I've had, to the friendships, to my girlfriend being patient with, me, being very poor at times, and her having to support me in dinners and stuff like that, sending me care packages. My parents being willing to, co-sign on loans and do whatever it took to make sure that I could focus on what I needed to focus on. To mentors, to people like you, Chris, and you have to take advantage of those opportunities and build a solid circle around you, because ultimately those are the people that pick you up when you fall down. As we all know, this is such an incredibly difficult journey as an artist to get to these points. Every position here is highly, highly competitive. And if you have a circle there that's keeping you and guiding you and making sure that at the end of the day you are moving forward, that you don't give up, that when you get beaten down, you get right back up. You need those people.
Connect with Zach Gracia at zachgracia.com. That's ZACHGRACIA.com. If you're an artist with a big heart and a teachable mindset, who isn't afraid of hard work and hard questions, and you love animation, illustration, or comics, I would love to help you develop a visual storytelling career that is both creatively fulfilling and financially sustainable. Just visit chrisoatley.com/subscribe. Join my email list, and I'll be in touch about future opportunities at the Oatley Academy. Until next time, my friends, stay strong and stay close.